Hello, creatives community. Excuse me, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. And today I'm going to talk about something that, uh, and be inspired by, and hope you guys are inspired by, something I never talk about on the channel, which are the standees that hang around behind me. And so I thought we would, and listen, we love the world build. We are our own um, community activists here who suffer from world builders disease. And so I thought we would take our standees and world build using them as our own mind fuel. So sit back, get a snack, join in if you're live. If not, drop a comment later on. But let's just jump into it. Let's get started. Again, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. We got ourselves a Peter Parker here. We're going to talk about Spider-Man and use Spider-Man as our basis for world building. Yesterday, couldn't quite get myself up because be late night with the wife and I and whatnot, hanging out and doing our thing. So apologize for that. Although I will say, um, yesterday was a great culmination of what it means to, in a very general way, to be an American here in the States. We had our presidential inauguration. We had a celebratory birthday for a person who changed the direction of the United States. And then, of course, we celebrated sports as well, college sports. So all that's great. But right here, looking up this direction, here we have Spider-Man. Got my Spidey T-shirt and sweatshirt on, and I thought we would use this moment to um, here in January to shake off the cobwebs and clear the brain. And a lot of times with us world builders, we tend to not we get writer's block, right? We see a lot of things coming at us, and despite our fandom for all things creative and interesting, sometimes we just get into a rut. And I think it behooves us to stop and smell the roses, right? Look around us and see what is in our uh, environment, and then use that to spark some new ideas, despite the fact that those very creative things that can spark us happen to be sitting in the background, kind of like furniture or whatever. And so I thought we'd take the opportunity and pull some, if not all, of our standees here who like to join in on the show. I like to have them sitting in the background and whatnot, and use Spider-Man. Now we're not going to. I want us to not flow into Marvel Comics as a whole, but just Spider-Man himself. So, uh, what is it about Spider-Man that draws people in? And there is this fascination, of course, with being superhuman, not just human, but superhuman. Um, Being able to be fast and quick and smart, and a rarity in modern parlance to be, well, dare I say, exceptional in many, if not every area. And yet, at the same time, even with uh, great capabilities or great fortune in our lives, sometimes, our personal lives have a great impact on that. And Spider-Man, our classic Peter Parker, and there are many variations of this character, um, represent this the idea that uh, within us is great potential for us to do so many things, and sometimes we crest over and have some of that great potential in us being displayed outward, whether we are creative and artistic, or we have some kind of a physical attribute that makes us better than others, whether it's something simple like juggling or being flexible, or maybe we're into sports or some other thing. Intellectually, we have our character long before he got bit by that radioactive spider on that fateful day. Mind you, that story has been rewritten many times, but before that fateful day, uh, he was a nerd, a geek like the rest of us, right? This is this brilliant kid who's just trying to go about his life, getting picked on by Flash Thompson and others, and just wants to lead a normal life, and it has a crush on a very attractive girl, sometimes written as a neighbor or whatnot, and Spider-Man's sweet spot is that that region. There's a reason why Spider-Man, while temporarily will team up with other superheroes, has never really formed great bonds on a team of characters, and that's because, uh, along with the super abilities, he's got a lot of personal responsibilities, generally with work, and then his personal life, taking care of his Aunt May, and also having a number of his friends. Um, yeah. Hey, Drew. Hey there. Yeah, and we're of course you guys are always ahead of me. I tend to be a little slow on purpose sometimes on the channel. But Drew says I like how the Spider Verse films went from the relatable neighborhood web slinger to the message that everybody can be a spider person, and that the idea of Spider Man has been spread wide. Right? It's not just about this guy. It's about, well, maybe you could be a person in your own world that rises to the occasion, and telling the story of a person from humble beginnings who just might have the strength and willpower to rise above, to solve a situation, a problem that people are going through. It is a story about that. So, world building. Okay. One of the things that makes him relatable, Spider-Man relatable, is are all the social implications of a regular person, right? Job, going to school, relatives, friends to take care of. Uh, how so many stories about Spider-Man are having to choose the lesser of two evils when doing something. Hey, you're supposed to help me move my apartment, and also Spider-Man, Peter Parker, rather. Um, you have to help Aunt May, go with her to the grocery store or whatever. And it's like, what do I choose? If I choose, no matter which direction I choose, I'm going to upset someone. And that's a very common story, especially in the the teenaged version of Spider-Man, where he's still in high school, maybe college, and that's a great reason why in the Marvel comics they keep resuscitating. They hit the reset button on a lot of the superhero characters because similar to mythology, there is this idea. Oh, let me open up the chat window here. Oops, sorry. Um, boom, boom, boom. Smack your guys' comments over here. There is this idea that superheroes today, comic books and things like that, are our modern day version of stories of mythology, and that they represent these icons of storytelling, like archetypes, really, and that you could remove the Spider-Man out of it and then he just becomes another character. Drew says, was speaking inauguration yesterday, like like how Gwen is a then your president uses public. Yeah, yeah. um we love our freedoms here in the States, even if they're oof. I'm sure Shai says there's an adult version. I guarantee you there is, and there's some fan art of Spider-Man's various relationships out there that are they're a little not safe for work. Let's just say there's a bunch of Gwen Stacy and oh man, what's Spider-Man's the most common long-term relationship? Gwen Stacy's the one he met earlier. She was a little bit too perfect in comic book related. So ancient mythology started to suck within the last 15 years. Hey, listen, rather funny. I can imagine like people in I don't know the Parthenon or whatever it is, like in, the Greeks and Romans from the ancient days, talking about mythology and talking about how great it. Yes, MJ, Mary Jane. Woo, thank you very much, there, Drew. Mary Jane. Mary Jane became a bit more of a palatable girlfriend for Peter Parker because Gwen. If I remember listening to some interviews from the creators, like Stanley and other creators with Spider-Man and Peter Parker, that they were like, "There's no way this shorty, nerdy kid is going to get a girlfriend like Gwen Stacy, who was like just a little bit." It was anyway. It was a little bit ridiculous at the time, and for whatever reason. And so Mary Jane became a bit more. She had relatable problems as well, despite being very attractive and wanting to be a model. A lot of the girlfriends of superheroes were like models back then, models and secretaries. Horrible. But the best thing that we have with Spider-Man is we have a number of traits of this guy here before the superpowers go into it. And so when it comes to world building, uh, we don't necessarily need to have spider powers involved in it. But what we can have are characters that have um, apparently our characters have great abilities despite the superpowers coming in. Smart, intelligent. They just don't know their potential. And also having a lot of responsibilities, whether those responsibilities are dependents taking care of someone, responsibilities being maybe they have a duty or an honor to a faction or an ideal or what have you that is drawing them in different directions. And therefore, once they acquire these special abilities, that in um, in return it may draw them even further into some. I'm trying to get it so there doesn't get too much reflection here. You can see my ring light is like reflected off his shoulder. Yeah. Won't draw the character into our characters into different directions because of their loyalty. Now, in the beginning, of course, it may not be a big deal to have to juggle all this, but over time, um, when the dependents that the characters have to take care of go in their own directions, maybe the faction that they belong to, or the promises that they made start growing and moving in directions that they may not necessarily agree with. And so, yeah. Yeah. There you go. Exactly. They did retcon. Yeah, retcon their own like mythology and all that kind of stuff. They're like, wait. I guess much like the if you take a look at the movie 300, it kind of represents that a little bit, right? Like here's a guy who's like a bardic guy telling a story. Did it really happen that way? Nah, maybe not. I agree with you there, Drew. Yep. Drew says I made the argument in various arcane conversations. Yeah, that Riot should treat their lore more like mythology than being focused on canon. Heck, I even treat Star Wars that way. I mean, Star Wars literally began with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Sounds a little bit more like mythology than actual canon. Sometimes canon is our own fault, like how serious sometimes we creators and consumers of that creation take it, that we get a little bit too canonized to the point where like I remember when they brought back the Star Wars movies 30 years later and they're just like, why is Han Solo not wearing his jacket? I'm like, 30 years later, really? Like he can't change his clothes? That's weird. uh but yes, some other things about Spider-Man, the Spider-Man the character, are and this is stretching things a little bit, but I get where they were going. That Spider-Man kind of represent, because if you take a look at Spider-Man's rogues gallery, you'll notice that there's a theme or has been a theme amongst Spider-Man's rogues gallery, and that is that theme usually involves animals and elementals. So Spider-Man, a spider, often has enemies like the rhino and the vulture and the scorpion as well as other animalistic like animals, and then also including primordial adversaries like the Sandman and some dude made out of water. I can't remember his name. Anyway, um, and there's been an argument that the whole bitten by a spider thing has been related to this idea that there's one or more individuals that need to come about to have a balance in the natural order. I don't know if I agree with that, but it is kind of fun to look at it like, wow, a lot of Spider-Man's villains are based around like a whole lot of animals or something. It's kind of cool. Oh, there we go. I'm trying to read the I I'm confused. Juggernaut. Juggernaut wasn't necessarily an original Spider-Man villain. Juggernaut was an X-Men villain that started out. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a larger rogues gallery. I mean, Spider-Man's poked a whole lot of bad guys in the eye over time. They have a particular a particular hatred of him just because of the jokes that he makes and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. Because he's been known as it's kind of where Deadpool came from, the merc with the mouth. Spider-Man also had a mouth or has a mouth in the comic books and has always done that. So yeah, but there's a great um, one shot comic book back in the early '90s where it was Spider-Man versus the Juggernaut, and it was just one comic with the two going after each other. It was pretty good. It's how Spider-Man defeated them, things like that. But yeah, it was really good. No, they play with that a little bit. The spider sense and ignoring the spider sense, and actually, many times they've actually just for the character wise, they've rejiggered like what does that even mean? Does he have a spider sense because like a spider has multifaceted eyes? Does he just notice things? Is it more empathic? Is it a predictive ability? We've seen that happen before. Like, is it just hairs on the back of his neck, or is it a real sense of different times and spaces, and he's interacted with it and stuff? Kind of like the Madam Web idea that there's a multiverse out there and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah, before the printing press, stories could change with each retelling, and the idea of intellectual properties made everyone averse to having others play with the same toys. Well, we've seen like the world of Lovecraft was taken over by other writers and people retconning or changing things around. And again, we did have a lot of comic book characters that they never really had a canon. They were just archetypes. They were like they were stand-ins for a type of character rather than one specific character. And then over time, we just went. A lot of fans of those things went back in time to pull those things out. Kind of like the Joker never quite having a specific background or a origin story and things like that. Oh yeah, yeah, that happens a lot. A lot of characters get dangled in the background, and they're like, "That was a great character idea, concept," and they just get left to the side there. Tia, yeah, yep, yep. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, it wasn't really a criminal or villain or anything, just some teen boy. Yeah, and sometimes the stories. Listen, some things don't need to be as deep as they need to as we like them to be. The origins of comic books and all in the early days were just to get grade school boys and high school kids to just enjoy his story, and it wasn't supposed to be deep. And then those individuals that were fans of it became older adults and then went into the stories and then went back in time to make them deeper. So along with the world building, we always hear about the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and what a great thing in a storytelling perspective would be is to, and this is going to seem to be a theme amongst a lot of our standees in the background and some of our world building, is to give the players a sense of belonging, that they live somewhere, that they've arrived somewhere, and give them some place to be responsible for, and that their their actions have longer lasting effects. For example, with Spider-Man's the original Peter Parker Spider-Man's origin, there was always a death, and he was somehow responsible for that death. Was either was there, could have done something about it, felt selfish at a particular moment of time. For example, in the idea that led to, in general, with Peter Parker's background, that he was trying to earn money to impress a girlfriend, and a bad guy came in and stole from someone that that person was trying to connive money out of Peter Parker's hand, and Spider-Man was like, so what? I don't care. You know, I was trying to make some money and now you tried to rob me. So now that you got robbed, I don't care. And then that very same person went and killed his Uncle Ben. Now, back in the day, it was for some reason that exact same criminal that Spider Man didn't stop broke into the house and killed Ben. In the movies, it was a drive-by a carjacking. Basically, Uncle Ben was waiting for Peter Parker outside the library or something in the movies, and that same criminal that stole the money needed a getaway car and shot him. But whatever the case may be, it was always a lesson that with great power comes great responsibility. And in world building, it absolutely behooves us to include that as a byline in the sense of giving the characters responsibility over a neighborhood, a region, a group of individuals that are innocent, and making them responsible for it. So that, yeah, you can be Billy Badass if you want to, but your actions can lead to the downfall of those around you. And there was a superhero game that I played. Side note that um, yeah, I'm with you there, Drew. I absolutely with you there. Hello, hello. There the idea that the like Drew says, sadly in our hobby, players too often do not want to be embedded into the world, but prefer to be lone wolves. And I think it behooves us. There was a superhero game I played. I'm very sorry I can't remember the name of it, but your character's capabilities were based on the bonds they had, and the greater, and it was you had to do a balancing act. So the greater you wanted your abilities, the less bonds you had in the world. And those bonds were people, places, and things your characters had a relationship with. And uh, for every bond you had, you could burn one of your bonds to gain successes in defeating great evil and things like that. So Spider-Man's bonds would be, um, MJ, Mary Jane. It would be his Aunt May. Um, Things like that, and he could burn them to be very successful. Batman would have Alfred and whatever recent girlfriend he had, and uh, things like that. And so if your characters get all their bonds burned, they are removed from the world in some way. They retire, they go off to another world, they lose their superpowers, they surrender to the bad guy, um, things like that. And it was a really cool thing because you wanted a lot of bonds to gain a lot of successes, but then you wouldn't have a very powerful superhero. But if you wanted to be super powered like Superman or Thor, and you didn't have very many bonds, it made you very powerful, but your successes were you didn't have a pool to draw from that made you very successful. You just had your superpowers. It was really cool. I go with the Joker's version. Like with great power comes great insanity. Yeah, I live in a society. Yeah. Drew says I have not played the Smallville RPG, but I think they had a system regarding relationships. I like stuff like that. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Cthulhu or Delta Green. Is it? I think they have a similar system though. But I mean, having something like that would be really cool. Like for example, you could have a in this system, you could have the bonds would relate to how well your character recovers, for example. So let me pull a number out of my ass. Let's say it's a number five, and you divide 5 points between your bonds. You could have one bond that's a five. you could have five bonds that are ones or any combination thereof, and for your character to recover their willpower, their drive, their I don't know, their gumption, their moxie. I don't know what's some other slang terms for having courage. Heck, you could even call it courage. You must reintegrate or re um, contextualize your relationship with your bonds. Now, there's some other things that Spider-Man has as well. Let's not forget the fact that J. Jonah Jameson of the Daily Bugle has always hated Spider-Man. It's a very common running thing. Whether it's because he really does hate Spider-Man or whether he thinks it drives up viewership of his newspaper, but whatever the case may be. And then, of course, in most recent parlance, J. Jonah Jameson was like a what would you call a conspiracy theorist type of individual, but whatever. That Spider-Man has also been considered a bad guy, and that also deals with the world building in the sense of being not being considered heroic in a world where you're trying to be that person and not being um, suitably rewarded for your efforts. We all wish that uh, trying to portray ourselves as the goody two shoes in our world, and what's the term? No good deed goes unpunished, and that happens a lot in our society where the good person gets arrested, the good person loses their money, the good person loses their life and their livelihood, and Spider-Man kind of fits into that category, and the player characters may actually fall into that as well. TA says, kind of funny how that bond thing works like that in real life too. Just imagine a success possibility you would have for your ideas if you say you had a two-step connection to Elon Musk. Does he would actually consider your ideas? Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like, hey, I got this great idea, and then and it's like 6 degrees or something, and someone listens to you. Oh yeah, we've seen this before in the comic books as too. The intrepid hero has their superpowers are also a curse of some sort, and in various stories they try to have them removed. And then what they'll do is different writers will go, wait a minute, both these characters' powers come from similar backgrounds. Why wouldn't they get together? And that's happened in the past before. And then they have to get their powers back again. How many times has Bruce Banner tried to get rid of the Hulk, and then they've recombined again to tell the story over and over again? Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, yeah, maybe even funding them. But that connection comes with its own downside too. Like, what would that funding be like? What demands would he have for that funding and shackling your idea to him or worse to the ideas? Yep, yep, yep. Spider Peter Parker has befriended many a scientist whose scientific ideas push the envelope, maybe a little bit illegally or at least unethical, and then that person is modified by it, like the lizard and Sandman kind of falls into that a little bit. And there's some other Doc Ock is another one. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, you're making a great point there, Ta. Mm-mm-mm. First episode of every comic, the hero does something heroic and stupid and gains superpowers. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna grab that electrical cord. Hey, I'm gonna walk into a radioactive test site. Hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna take a spaceship up into space and without radiation shielding. I've got superpowers. Yeah, Drew says Spider-Man is somewhat of a shaman. The weirdo on the edge of the side is all about animal totems. Yep, and his villains too, surrounded by him. Like I mentioned, the lizard, Doctor Octopus. Heck, Craven the Hunter is out there doing things. Rhino, the Scorpion, Vulture. Those are like some of his main ones. Let me see if I could find it. Let's find a list. List of Spider Man totemic uh, rogues gallery. mm, 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 mm. Yeah, share this out. You know what? I'm gonna have to close you down just slightly. Yeah, I call this Spider World Zoo. It sure is. DP7 in their version of Flash, due to accelerated metabolism, that also led him to eventually starving to death. I remember, yeah. At that wasn't originally in the comic books. Different writers have put that in there, where like the Flash is so fast that his metabolic rate is high. He's got to consume like 10,000 calories or more a day. Actually, a lot more than that. We close this down here and just and share this out just so we can do this here. But little difficult to see this, but list of spider. Why does it say Spider Man? Anyway, here Venom actually kind of had uh, ads in there. Jackal. I don't remember the Jackal. Of course, we got Scorpion, Black Cat. I talked about Sandman, Electro, Primordial, Elemental, Mysterio. It's mental. We got Rhino, Vulture, Lizard, the Chameleon. Forgot about the Chameleon, which is an animal like that. Doctor Octopus, Craven the Hunter. So yeah. Now, in more recent years, we've gotten not semi-recent. And of course, there's the Kingpin down in here, and the Shocker and Electro kind of like blend with each other over depending on which how electrical you like to get. Little bit of their own a copy and paste. And then we've got Venom and Carnage. Venom's a lot of these bad guys that become very popular end up going like the dark hero, anti-hero version. Venom has done that. That's why they had to come up with a Carnage to make an enemy for Venom. The same thing with Magneto. Magneto became a hero at one point, so they had to make another bad guy, just even bigger and badder than he was, and whatnot. Gabriel Stacy instead of Stacy. But anyway, um, yeah, the last retcon of the Flash that he is not fast but manipulates time around him. Oh, very much so. What coming up with the Speed Force and whatnot is it's also a great thing as well, right? Doing like it's not just he's the only one, but there's an actual Speed Force out there that makes this character who he is. Now, when it comes to the the balancing of the superpowers in this world building that we have. So first we already have our characters have to have some kind of bond with the world that they live in. And you can't just be it's the idea of the murder hobo, right? We don't want our characters being dropped into a world that they don't fit in. They should have a relationship with this world. Even if they're from outside, their relationship may be that they've been adopted or are adopting the ways in which of the neighborhood that they live in. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a neighborhood. We don't need to, it doesn't have to be like a New York neighborhood or something. You can very much recontextualize this, but they should have a relationship in this world, whether it's a an elder or family members or the faction that they were adopted by or grew up in. And but when we come to the extraordinary abilities that this character has, uh, those things should also be a problem as well. We've seen one of the most classic things with Spider-Man is seeing Spider-Man in a torn up, ripped up superhero costume being battered and broken. And so despite the fact that Spider-Man ostensibly and if you've ever played the Fast Rip superhero role playing game, um, it's actually a Marvel superhero game, but it's been down to let's type this in. It's fighting, agility, strength, endurance, reason, intuition, and psyche, and it was known as Face Rip. And your FASE, your fighting, agility, strength, and endurance were like your hit points, your physical endurance, your hit points, and then your RIP, your reason, intuition, and psyche were like your mental. It was called karma. It was like your mental uh, strength of sorts. and he had some of the highest abilities, despite the fact that he's supposed to be like this young character, because all of those abilities that he had, that fighting, agility, strength, and endurance was very high, as well as his reasoning because he was very intelligent, his intuition because he had the spider sense, and his psyche because in every iteration of Spider-Man he had a lot of willpower, um, and so despite all that, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they very much are. They very much are. Um, Despite going through different dimensions and stopping things, if you ever notice, Batman and Spider-Man always come back home, and they are drawn to come back home. Now, you could make a reason, or you could make the argument, especially when I was very young. It was like, well, why doesn't he join the Avengers? Like, why doesn't he? Why doesn't? But every character has a sweet spot. For example, if you compare Spider-Man to, say, Captain America. Captain America doesn't have bonds to a neighborhood. Captain America doesn't worry about money and his job and his relationship with his girlfriend so much. Captain America is a very focused character who has a lot of his extraneous elements removed from him, where Spider Man still has those things. Which, if he joins a team or is a paid superhero, that element is removed from the archetype of this character, which is why a lot of times when you see people age Spider-Man up, it gets to the point where you have to you got to hit the reset button and put him back into his young age and then come from there. But I do agree with the Heroine's Labyrinth. Yeah, is like, yeah, it kind of has his own, there as a matter of fact, how many scientists has this guy befriended and then end up becoming like the bad guy, the main bad guy in his own story, right? It's the masked minotaur in the Heroine's Labyrinth. Yeah. Yeah. Funny thing, Spider-Man was uh my fave far as unrealistic characters, while Iron Man was the realistic favorite, like a Marvel version of Batman with the Iron Man gadgets and Batman all his bat gadgets. Exactly. Heck, I've got a whole it's hard to see. Um my little entertainment thing. You can't see it; it's against my wall here, but there's like a little tribute to Spider-Man over here. Some signed images and things like that. But yeah, yeah. The high ability in a skinny nerd body was Spider-Man's greatest strength because everyone underestimated him constantly. A lot of times. Really good artists would show like how short he was against some of our more like militaristic characters, like Spider-Man standing next to Captain America. He was always a scrawny kid with Captain America like this big chest and stuff like that, and Spider-Man's like, hi guys. Tom Holland did a great job in embracing the uncertainty that Spider-Man had. I like the one thing at Spider-Man, he backs down if he thinks he's outmatched. That is a truism. So let's stick with that. Let's stick with that idea. Uh, Haliopia. Oops. Let me get you guys chat back up here again. Um, I just needed that because it's hard for me. If you have the chat up and I screen share, sometimes you really can't see everything. But yeah, Spider Man runs from a fight all the time. Many of his bad guys, he's run from fights because he got his ass kicked. And strangely enough, I think that's something that your average tabletop role player, even in today's parlance, doesn't really think about. That running from a fight not only is a good thing, but it actually represents a really great storytelling opportunity by having a character run from a fight to reconsider the things in their lives. Many times, Spider-Man has knows not only does he run from a fight, he then comes back to the people in his life to almost say goodbye, right? He'll go to MJ, he'll go to his Aunt May to get advice like, what should I do? Or um, they'll look at Peter, like, Peter, are you all right? He's like, no, Aunt May, I just want to make sure you're okay and whatnot. Because he knows when he gets back in a fight, he might die. And for a character that's got his ass kicked, he recovers quite well. Maybe not so much like a Wolverine healing thing, but in a tabletop role playing game, if he recovers all his hit points, uh, that's a thing. So maybe their bonds represent the amount that they can recover from that individual. You know, hey, with MJ's a number three and Aunt May's a number five, if he goes back to either one of them, he can get back as many as 8 points to get back into his a maximum of 10 in the fight or something. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, his Spider-Man strength was measured at one point at 10 tons for a bench press. Yep. And I'm pretty sure even with the super soldier serum, Captain America's bench press is not that high. Captain America's up there probably, he's maximum human, so he might be just shy of like a half a ton. Like I think Captain America can lift up like he could bench press a motorcycle or something like that. But yes, you are correct. I remember in one of the Marvel, they had these Marvel books out there that would measure the different thing. I remember Spider-Man had like incredible strength, which was like 10 tons. And they, I think they even mentioned that it was like a ton per finger. So he, the reason why he could balance on one pinky or one finger was that each finger, like a spider, was very strong, even though everyone thought he was just a scrawny kid. I even considers himself to be a scrawny kid, to be honest. By the way, what about the Beyonder and what animal entity could be compared to? The Beyond, the Beyonder was a very thinly veiled Michael Jackson ripoff, but yeah. Yeah, Adon says the world building in the Spider Verse, yeah, is based entirely on the concept that some folks, mostly variants, are so important that the universe ends without them. Yeah, and that's in canon. I think it's I, personally, multiverse and time travel stories are weak sauce to me because yeah, proportionate strength of a spider if it were scaled up to a human size. Yep, that was it. Yep. Yeah. What was it? Which movie was it where Spider-Man gets crushed and he thinks he's going to die, and he finally gets the strength to lift the debris off of him? Was it the one with the vulture in it? I can't remember. Anyway, but yes, that was a growth moment for the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man. But yeah, they're in for those who don't know, there is a canon, yes, there is a multiverse, and then we see those multiverses collapse because once you get a little bit too into the multiverse, then there's always an answer. There's no repercussions, and there's always an answer to problem solve everything. Just go to a universe where they solve that problem and you're done, right? And then you take that problem and use that as a patchwork for the other world, and it's just after a while it's dumb, but whatever. That's just me as a creator. Mm-mm-mm. He's so silly. Yeah, best advice I ever heard to time travel in multi-dimension stories. Yeah, don't. His powers are closer to a gecko than a spider. Yeah, I guess so. I suppose so. Although there is a version, at least in the movies, where he actually releases spider fluid from his body instead of creating them in his own little s- small studio apartment or something. Yeah, and it depends on the story, right? There, I think there's even a version where Spider-Man gets his spider webs from someone else, and he periodically has to go and get the little spider fluids into his wristo shooters and whatnot, and get them back, and yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah, Disney's probably got all of that. Now, here's one issue though, TA, that despite the fact that Disney owns Marvel, they have licensed that the Spider Verse out to Sony, and Sony, in order to keep the rights to use Spider Man, they have to produce um, they have to be in the process of producing a Spider-Man related film theatrical release in order to keep a version of it. And so we got a lot of trash movies based on the expanded Spider Verse and whatnot, so Sony could keep it used and make some money off of it too. They've actually made a lot of money off those trash movies, but whatever. Um, Yeah, it would come from the well, it may come from a hole near his anus. Sorry. Uh, but it was pretty funny for him to like his mom, his aunt trying to get in his room, and he's like squirted spider fluid all over the room. Uh, for young boys of a certain age, you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, the um to keep the druidic druidic Wiccan primordial aspects of it in the world building for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here, um it, it does it would seem to lend itself to having a great opportunity to um, use the archetypes of those animalistic and elemental things in the world. So, for example, someone could very much say that they don't want to be a snake in the grass, but when you find out that they have snake-like things and can shed their skin and they look like someone else and they will their words are poison, right? You could play with a lot of that as well. I think that'd be kind of fun. St. Bia shoes they could well we're I hear you, TA, and not that I disagree, which I don't. uh yeah, we're not bean counters and boardroom members with very little creativity, right? We're here on the interwebs with infinite amount of money because we're using it our imaginations. I don't know what we would do if we had to placate um, um, stockholders, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. Venture Brothers and the boys knew that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure did. Yeah, the boys. Oh man, woo, woo, that would have to be. Hey, you guys are gonna have to join me on my OnlyFans, where we go X-rated with our creativity. I'll show you some images. Hold on, let me. It's like let me stop. Oh man, Sony gave us at least the animated Spider Verse films. Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, because the live action stuff was just like, what were you? What was this Madam Web thing about? Like what? Mm-mm-mm. So funny, so funny. But um, but I will say that the unassuming nature of the Spider-Man character was always classic. The scrawny kid, the underestimated kid, and the fact that even amongst superheroes, Spider-Man still was considered like the scrawny, like what are you doing here? Why are you in my way? And the underestimation is in many ways one of Spider-Man's superpowers, right? Um, there was an old version of a comic book. I brought this up before about this wizard named Kulin Gath, and the comic books were going along their normal thing, and then the very next comic book, half the superheroes we knew were dead, another half were on the run, others were captured, and Spider-Man was literally crucified in like um Central Park in New York City. And it was because Kulin Gath's magical powers when he restructured reality to win. Basically that's how the story started out. He won the fight against all the superheroes, and the superheroes had to change reality back to the way it was. Kulin Gath was a wizard, but it doesn't matter. He couldn't bend Spider-Man Peter Parker's mind to believe that was the real reality. So he made Peter Parker speak in tongues. He couldn't communicate with everyone, and literally had him like spikes through his arms and things like that. It was pretty nasty. The artwork was really wild and dark and whatnot. But Spider-Man's mental acuity was so high that he couldn't convince him that this was the new reality. And Cooling Gath could only stay in power um, if everyone believed he was already in power. Because if you believe the reality, then it became true. So yeah, it was really cool. I see the reimagining. Yeah, it gets ridiculous if Spider-Man and the Hulk are in the same frame. I had considered, I'd kind of looked for a Hulk standee, but if if a Hulk standee was in relationship to the ones I have, I don't know if he'd fit in this room. Well, I think it would be kind of cool. I'd spend 100 $150 on something like that. These standees are pretty expensive. They're like 40 to 50 American ish, maybe $60 for some of them, depending on how popular they are. Yeah. With the new universe properties, it's all fresh, unfilmed ground entirely. So it makes sense to use them and let the others cool down before using them again. I agree with that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. We like to think that making movies is easy. It's not. There's a lot. There's thousands of people that if somebody drops the ball, it it affects everything else, and then you have to add in ego and that creative spark that some people get that might not be applicable to the project you're working on, but that person wants to add it in anyway. And then you have deadlines. Some like special effects people are overworked and underpaid and undervalued. So a lot of times it's not whether they can get and the graphics, the color lighting, the color timing, and all that other kind of stuff. It's not that they can't get it right; is that they don't have enough time to get it right. And then you also have the bean counters, right? You've you've got $15 to fix this, not 30. So you have that limitation as well, and then you have the conundrum of the artists themselves. What is it? And art is never finished; it only meets deadlines. And so there are some artists that are like, you know what, I I'm not quite done yet. You know, the writer's like, I have some more. I want to change the language, and then you have the artist that's like, no, I want to add this other tweak, and they'll just keep tweaking it until you snatch it out of their hands too. So sometimes artists are good but not the best to get projects done. You kind of need what you need is a producer. You need someone who is excellent at their job in balancing both the money, the foundational elements, being a project manager, and letting your artists have enough freedom to do what they want while getting the timing right by snatching out of their hands and whatnot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please, the bean counters are necessary if some idiot paints his car with the movie money. Yeah, there's some people out there that have abused the whole like I'm an artist. Yeah, and Anon says Arcane lost money despite the talent behind it. They sure did. They sure did. It takes a lot of effort to do it. Unlimited money, yeah, you can make some great things, but you know, do you want to make it in the privacy of your own home, or do you want the general public to embrace it? So in that case, you do have to worry about marketing. You have to worry about public opinion. You have to worry about storytelling elements. I mean, you have to play into that. Despite the fact that we can, fold our arms and talk about, you're not an artist. You lost a thing. Yeah, we can say all that because it's not our money. When you're spending someone else's money, you better be careful. Yeah, there are some movie producers that are notorious for getting under budget, and they're constantly working. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for just letting me just be dumb and talk about the Spider-Mans. Here we go, the Spider-Mans with my Spider-Man jacket. But really, in a bigger sense, sometimes there's things around us that have been there forever, and we don't even really consider them, and then go, wait a minute. Now, mind you, Spidey here is brand new to the collection, relatively new to the collection. Got you for Christmas or birthday or something like that. Yeah, but like a tiny Oprah. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. Some people only need so much to live on, and the rest of it is like, yeah, you guys can have it. I think the biggest problem has been bean counters that also fancy themselves as creatives. Yep, but failed and now want to tinker with the creative side using the bean counting side to clobber the creatives. Oh hell yeah! Oh yeah! Hell yeah! Yeah, absolutely. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah. Now, I absolutely agree with that fact that the other side I'm not defending the bean counters. I'm just saying that a lot of bean counters do think that they're creative. They're like, well, I've got the money, then I want to do this thing, and they give the creative people notes and whatnot. It's horrible. Um, but yeah, it's pretty fun. Now, to leave you off with a note, because I'm going to let you guys go. To leave you off with a note, one of the things that can be a little difficult for us as creative individuals in the first place, and especially in our tabletop role playing community, is accepting our place in the world. And by trying to break against those constraints, it kind of ruins the thematic elements of it. Spider-Man is a popular character because despite all the superhuman abilities that he has, and let's face it, Spider-Man on paper is kind of a perfect guy. Smart, fast, quick, six pack abs, but still like he's not muscular in terms of like bodybuilding. He's just a lean guy, very intelligent, a lot of resources, known in the neighborhood. But you add on to that. There's haters out there, right? J. Jonah Jameson got haters, got responsibility, trying to earn money, um, constantly trying to balance his relationships and whatnot. And Spider-Man is the superheroic everyman in many ways in his life. I'm trying to think if there's a female version of Spider-Man out there, and I think there is. I just can't put my finger on it at the moment, but I believe there is. I think Rogue might be in that category for the X-Men. I'm trying to think if there's an Avenger level character. I'd have to think about it some more. But Spider-Man does well. There's a lot of the Spider Gwen and the other female characters. MJ, there's a version of MJ. Mary Jane, that's a Spider Lady, Spider Woman, Spider Girl. So this archetype has been draped over others using the multiverse to tell different stories using the same concept. And a lot of times in our settings, I think it behooves us to make sure which is why like horror tabletop role playing games are different than say dramatic superhero things. Huh? That is so. Oh, that is so bizarre. How your hand on Spider-Man stand up make it look even more 3D than it does just standing there, rather than destroying the illusion. Oh, really? Wow. Was that a 3D statue of? No, 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 no. This is. Can I break the illusion? That's. He's cardboard. Actually, you'd probably be better. He probably would have been better like this if I could. If I could figure out a way to like hang him from the ceiling or something like that, it'd probably be better. Like Spider-Man. Oh, no, no, no! Oh, I gotta get the light out of his face. Yeah, he'd probably be better like this. But but no. Hey, Spidey. No, no, that wasn't thunder. That was ASMR. That was you hearing my that was you hearing this, the sound of this. Yeah, it's cardboard on the back, and then there's a coating. There's a filmatic coating on the front to get the imagery here, and then they just cut it out. It gets sent in one big block, and then you just get pop the character out. Yeah, nothing that um, nothing that dramatic, but it does look a little little 3D. I didn't really consider that. That's funny. Yep, exactly, exactly. Because he comes across a little dark. The way this was created, like he's got like a very dark shadowed chest, and his light is coming from mostly from this angle. His primary light source is coming from what would be on your right, and then there's a little bit of a secondary reflection on this side. But yeah, he's a little darkened there. Kind of cool. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, guys, it's kind of silly, and listen. I'm your granddad's grognardian geek over here with the gray beard. Um, I get to hang out and be cool, and the wife loves doesn't mind feeds into my geekdom, which is kind of cool as well, and I love it. So, uh, love my t-shirts. I got my little. I get a little chilly up here, so got me my Spider-Man sweatshirt, and this is super classic. Look how bright that blue is, and the red, how vivid it is, and stuff like that. Trying to get it around this little barrel. Actually like that shadowing, and the only thing I can see it benefiting from is to have the black printed in a matte finish to reduce the glare. Yeah, that's the one thing that's unfortunate with all the standees. Um, I don't have one. Maybe they're not. They're either satin or super gloss. Mainly because many of these would be sitting in movie theaters, and they want them to be that way. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Geeky Grognardian granddad for everybody out there. Yeah, I sure am. Yep, yep, yep. Only 7 degrees in Arkansas. What is it now? It is considered high of 12 today here. Fahrenheit -5 for this evening. So let's see how. I wonder how deep. Let's do this. Current weather. Let's see, Central Ohio. We are talking. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, here's the current weather here in Central Ohio. Um, 4 degrees Fahrenheit, -16 Celsius, and under the Celsius, -16, going down to -20. It's going to be a high -11 in Celsius, and in Fahrenheit, there's 4 degrees, topping out at 12. But with the wind, 9, 10 miles an hour, so drop that by another 5 to 10 degrees, something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, matte finish is a lot harder to clean off than a nice glossy one. Yeah, that too. Yeah, 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 yeah. Get my grubby fingerprints all over it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody comes back to live in comic books except Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben comes back to be killed off. Come on now, we love to see Uncle Ben killed off. Wow, yeah, had to sneak the electric heater on in the cat's little shed house. Yep, mostly because they would die of thirst because the water would be frozen solid, even though water to drink. Yeah, pretty cold here. We're getting um, is it what is it, a nor'easter, something like. Anyway, every 2 years um, we get that cold blast from the north that reaches down here to the states. So yeah, it's reached down. I've got family in Texas and Georgia, and they both have talked about how cold it's been. I mean, freezing temperature cold, not just like, "Brr, I need a sweater." It's, I mean, that kind of stuff. So yeah, pretty wild, pretty damn wild. Tuesday tomorrow. Yeah, and I got to go out in this, so it's pretty bad. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you very much as well. Be aware that at some point the long locks are probably going to get cut. I am a person of a certain age. Your old um, Greeky, geeky grognardian granddad here is a man of a certain age, so I'm starting to like. I'm getting the balding here and the bald spot in the back of the head, and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing the dreadlock comb over, so I'm probably going to get it cut probably this weekend and go with the baldy. Yeah, not anyway. Yeah, it's just there's just no point. I can't. It's a little difficult for me to show it to you, but you'll probably end up seeing it. There's a patch of hair. It's just going and going and going. So yeah, instead of fighting it, let's cut it down here okay. So I'm used to it being this cold for 2 weeks during February, but it has been warming up. Okay, yeah. Now we get here in Central Ohio, we get pretty much equal amounts all 4 seasons. Like we get snow and cold, we get high temperatures and heat, we get a full spring with rain and new plants and stuff. We fall, yeah, we get all four. Yeah, don't get hit by lightning. Yeah, yeah. Not too many. What is it called? Not too much thunder snow up in this region, but it can happen. It happens not often, but thunder snow is a thing. But yeah, we'll talk about these and some other stuff that was going on. I we're the wife and I are binging Sons of Anarchy. Made me think about the late '90s, early 2000s television shows, and being like, it made me think about like what would a world be like with some of our like favorite science fiction and fantasy movies and television shows. But like, what if a world was built around it instead of like a few characters? It'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, well, I'm getting there too, man. Don't worry about it. I'm joining the ball dude group. You know what I mean? I don't want the George Jefferson like hair around, hair bandana where you get just stretched around the outside and it just shave the whole thing off, man. Yeah. That and also the other thing is my lighting is very terrible for where I'm at. So like I don't have a bunch of ring lights. I've got one of these. It's an LED, battery powered LED light that I can use and on the back here is the control panel, and on the side to get the kind of like colors and lighting and soft lighting. So right now it looks pretty white, but there's a bit of yellow in it. And then I've got another ring. It's difficult to see this here. I've got another smaller ring light. It's a little difficult to see. My fingers are. You can't really see it, but yeah, it's too bright. But this is a small ring that I can hold in my hand to get some lighting in here, and then my camera has got like four pinpoint lights on it to so that it doesn't like focus in on the glasses too much, reflect like a single pinpoint. But you can see that there it is in my glasses. You can kind of see the reflection of one of my light sources. There it is. Yep. There we go. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you very much for damn near finding the channel and whatnot. But we'll do some fun stuff. I have a feeling just in general. Oh yeah, yeah, the light. You'll notice some really good or no, some medium sized channels will use things like that. So I do have this like, it does seem magical a bit. You know what I mean? Like wow, da, 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 da. But let's see. Let me turn it off. Yeah, it's just a cube. It's actually a plastic filter over top of it. You can buy these for 10 or 15 bucks. This is actually what the light looks like. It looks like a hard drive with a cover on it, and then there's a rubberized filter over it. And then the rubberized filter, it fits right into the the light itself, black on the back, control panel, and dials for brightness and color saturation. And then it fits into the rubberized thing. And it's air gapped. So the rubberization over top of it, actually, you can actually see you can't see the shadow. From here, you can see the shadow. You can see it's light colored here, and then the darker light is here. And then when I press the button and turn it back on again, boom, it lights up, and then you can see it softly illuminates rather than if it was very close to it. So that's just one element. I've got another light like it, but it gets hot. It's like, well, Frosty white silicone condom for it. Yes. So it is less harsh. That's actually quite true. Uh, yep, yep, yep. It's all LEDs. Yeah, it's nothing but LEDs. Yeah, it's a whole the whole front panel of it is it's just rows and rows and rows of them, and then they are um, you can alter the intensity of as you move the dial. The number of LEDs that change shifts over time. So shifts from 0 to 100% of them going through different color spectrums and stuff. So, yep, yep, yep. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm going through some dumb stuff. We're supposed to be talking about our dude right here. Anyway, we'll do some other things later on and talk about some other archetypes and whatnot. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Really appreciate it. And everybody have a great day. Just thanks for hanging out. We'll talk about somebody. Who do we want to talk about tomorrow? We'll do Daredevil. How about that? We'll hang out with Daredevil tomorrow and see what that because he's also another maybe not so friendly neighborhood superhero that's a New Yorker that never joins a team that lives in his own spot in his mama's basement. Well, maybe not so much in his basement, but so guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Really appreciate it, and have a great day. Bye.